But to back up a little bit, when they are with Xenophilius Lovegood, and they're talking about the Deathly Hallows, he asked them, so have you ever really seen an invisibility cloak like this? And they're like, well, yeah, we've seen. He said, no. One that is eternal, one that is impregnable, and that can perfectly conceal. Okay, first book. Here he's sitting in front of the mirror of Erised for the third night. He has on the invisibility cloak. So, back again, Harry. Dumbledore asks him, seeing right through the invisibility cloak. Okay. Harry, Ron, and Hermione go down to Hagrid's hut. Book 2, just before Dumbledore gets sacked. Dumbledore sees them underneath the invisibility cloak. Okay. Book 4, Mad-Eye Moody sees through the invisibility cloak.
Yep.
More than once. Okay.
I have to wonder if part of it is around like thematic. If that is supposed to be the invisibility cloak, I have to wonder how much of it is continuity errors and how much is like the totality of its power is only in the legends, and in reality it is valuable but not very.
Or in a sense, because at this time, doesn't Dumbledore have one of the other Deathly Hallows, the other one? Used by the Trigger
We've
one?
got the Elder Wand.
That also aid him in seeing through another Deathly Hallow?
That wouldn't explain that.
No, we're never given anything that says that.
It could be that it's just an old wives' tale. You know how things are twisted around. That no one can see this.
And no one
Yeah,
can
but the
see
end of
through
the
the
book.
perfect
Could
cloak.
be.
I mean,
Well,
it
it's
sounds
like
like
These are all could be's, okay? But the way Xenophilius talks about it is this is part of, let's call it the lore of the Deathly Hallows, okay?
I believe when Dumbledore is explaining the Elder One, he says that the Elder One is not necessarily undefeatable. It just makes the user
Yeah.
very powerful. So there are ways to still defeat.
Yeah, I mean, there are obviously misconceptions about the Deathly Hallows, okay? Let me rephrase that. Who has misconceptions about, for example, the Elder One? Who has the biggest misconception? Voldemort.
Lord Bully Shorts.
Okay. What's that misconception? What does he believe?
You have to kill to.
You have to kill in order to become the master of it. You don't. You don't. All you have to do is defeat somebody. Okay? Defeat doesn't mean kill. But we don't have any other information about the resurrection stone or the invisibility cloak other than what Xenophilius Lovegood says about them. I mean, yeah, you've got the tale of the three brothers, but that doesn't go into any kind of detail, okay? We get Xenophilius Lovegood, and, what would you call him in relation to the Deathly Hallows? I'm looking for a specific word.
Conspiracies?
Just keep in mind, what does he say the symbol is? What's its purpose?
To show up, to let others who are also pursuing that same goal know that you are.
You're really
Yeah,
close.
I can't remember.
Believers.
You're believers. You're believers. I used this in my class this morning. Not a very good one. It's not the infinity symbol. It's the fish, the Christian fish, okay, which was used by the early church to indicate, okay, I'm a believer kind of a thing, okay. The Deathly Hallow is the same thing. So here we have somebody who is a quote-unquote true believer. He's the only one in the course of the novels that we meet who is a true believer, other than Dumbledore. Dumbledore, however, never really talks about him, does he? Until we meet dead Dumbledore in King's Cross, which we'll get to pretty quickly.
Xenophilius Lovegood, Grand High Prophet of the Deathly Hallows.
Yeah, something like that. And slightly out there. So, let's pick up with the sacking of Severus Snape. We left off last time with the missing mirror and Harry telling Aberforth, when Aberforth says, why didn't Dumbledore tell him, kind of pointing at Harry, to hide? Why didn't he tell him to save his skin? And Harry said, because sometimes you have to think about the greater good. And so we have 17-year-old Harry coming to the same idea that Dumbledore had at the age of 17, with a slight difference. When Dumbledore is writing to Gellert Grindelwald about the greater good, what's he talking about? Mastery. Power. For the greater good. Seeking power in order to help the greater good. What is Harry thinking about?
Sacrifice.
Yeah, not power. Okay? So the Lost Diadem chapter is important so that we can get that Horcrux. And we also learn something about one of the scary ghosts at the castle. Okay? The Bloody Baron. Pick up with the sacking of Severus Snape. Okay? Harry is back now at Hogwarts. We saw the portrait open, the Dumbledore's army and other people start flowing back through. Percy comes back in, Fred and George welcome him with open arms and such. And Harry watches as the Electo twins, the Caro twins, are doing some things they shouldn't do. And about 4 pages into the chapter, Amicus says, we can blame it on the kids. That is, we can blame what's happened on the students. McGonagall's standing there and she says, but no, you can't. I'm not going to let you. She says, in response to Amicus says, a couple of kids more or less, what's the difference? Only the difference between truth and lies, courage and cowardice, she says. And she says, I shall not permit it. Excuse me. It's not a case of what you'll permit, Minerva McGonagall. Your time's over. It's what's us in charge now. It's us what's in charge here now, and you'll back me up or you'll pay the price. And he spat in her face. Harry pulled the cloak off himself, raised it on, and said, you shouldn't have said that. Amicus spun around. So notice, when Harry pulls the cloak off, where's he facing? Caro's back. Okay? Turns around, Crucio. The Death Eater was lifted off his feet. He writhed through the air like a drowning man, thrashing and howling in pain. Then with a crunch and a shattering of glass, he smashed into the front of a bookcase, crumpled insensible to the floor. Harry, I see what Bellatrix meant. Blood thundering through his brain. You need to really mean it. What did she say back in book 5? Not only that you need to really mean it. What did she mean by that?
It was that the emotion was not
Justice.
Can't be righteous fury.
Can't be righteous anger. You have to do what?
desire pain.
You have to enjoy the pain you're inflicting on somebody else. In other words, you got to be kind of slightly twisted and sick. Okay?
You can't use Crucio without some sadism to go along with that.
And Harry likes this. I mean, she says, Potter, that was foolish. He spat at you. Okay. Why'd he do it? He, Harry.
He's protecting her.
He's protecting her.
Respect.
He's a Gryffindor. This is chivalry. Is McGonagall not able to defend herself? No, she can. Okay? But this is Harry saying, you shouldn't have to. Okay? She says, don't you realize? And Harry finishes her sentence. Yeah, I do. Professor McGonagall, Voldemort's on the way. In other words, let's prepare. Okay? Skip a bunch. This is when Percy comes back, sorry. End of the chapter, probably second to the last page. Percy comes in through the picture. Says, I was an idiot. I was a pompous prat. I was Fred finishes his sentence for him. Ministry-loving, family-disowning, power-hungry moron. Yes, I was. Well, you can't say fairer than that, says Fred, holding out his hand. Okay? Fred and Percy make up. Mrs. Weasley bursts into tears and everything. Percy goes up to Dad, apologizes, and what happens? The end of the very next chapter. Fred dies. Okay? So, we get the battle. I'm going to skip a bunch. We find out, it's in that chapter, we find out why the Bloody Baron is bloody. What did he do?
Killed the daughter.
Killed Rowena Ravenclaw's daughter. Okay. He wears the chains as a mark of penance. And we get the battle going. We have Harry rescue Malfoy. Okay. Very last paragraph. Last two paragraphs. No, no, no. Someone was shouting, no, Fred, no. And Percy sitting there shaking his brother. What happened to Fred?
The wall.
Did he just die? Did the wall fall on him and he died?
Everything exploded.
Look at the description of Fred. His eyes are wide open.
He still had a smile.
Avada Kedavra. His eyes stared without seeing, the ghost of his last laugh still etched upon his face. Next sentence. The world had ended. Why does Rowling write that? Why did she say the world had ended? The world had ended, so why had the battle not ceased? The castle fallen silent in horror, and every combatant laid down their arms. Harry's mind was in free fall. Meaning what? What happens if you're in free fall?
It was out of control.
Out of control. Free fall means you're falling and there's no bottom. There's no stability. Okay?
And no real way to get one.
And yeah. That's why the world had ended. Everything is wrong. Everything is upside down. It's as if a world without Fred Weasley is not a world Harry can inhabit. From the day Harry became aware that he was magical, almost from the day, he has known Fred Weasley. Not quite. He discovers on his birthday. There's a month to go before he actually meets Fred Weasley, but that month goes by rather quickly. Okay?
Kind of another free.
Pardon?
He was kind of in another free fall during that month, but in a different.
Yeah, because his world had changed. And then a body fell past the hole blown into the side of the school. Curses flew in at them from the darkness. And Harry noticed, tells everybody, get down. Percy, meanwhile, trying to revive Fred, and notice Percy kind of goes a little berserker. Okay, we're going to skip a bunch again. This is in the chapter of the Elder One. Harry follows Snape off. About page 654 or so. Okay? Harry and Ron. They go in the tunnel, they follow Snape. They've got the cloak on. And Snape goes to Voldemort. Let me find the boy. Let me bring you Potter. I know I can find him, my lord. Please. Voldemort stood up. I have a problem, Severus. My lord. Voldemort raises the wand. Why doesn't it work for me? My lord, I don't understand. You have performed extraordinary magic with that wand. No, I've performed my usual magic, which is merely extraordinary for everybody else. I am extraordinary, but this one, no. It's not revealed the wonders it has promised. What wonders? What is Voldemort thinking the Elder Wand will do?
You're unstoppable.
Louder.
You're unstoppable.
It'll make you unstoppable. It'll make you, what does Dumbledore tell Harry?
Defeat death. Master of death.
Master of death. Or the Death Eater. Where you can take death in and it not affect you. That's what Voldemort thinks the Elder Wand, okay, the Death Stick, the stick of the Wand of Destiny does. Notice, he's completely wrong. What is the Elder, well, I'll ask that later. So, Voldemort and Snape keep talking. He says, do you know why I've called you back from the battle? No, my lord, but I beg you let me return. I'll find Potter. You sound like Lucius. You don't understand. Neither of you understand Potter as I do. He does not need finding. Potter will come to me. I know his weakness. What's his weakness? His one great flaw.
He doesn't want others to be hurt for him.
Put that in another way.
Love.
Love. That's his weakness. Love. We saw it at the beginning of the book, right? Harry didn't want to do Polyjuice Potion. He doesn't want others to look like him, because then they'll have targets on their backs. He will hate watching the others struck down around him, knowing that it is for him that it happens. He will want to stop it at any cost. He will come. Okay? So, they keep talking. Why did both the wands I have used fail when directed at Harry Potter? Snape throws up his hand. I don't know. Can't you? My wand of you did everything of which I asked it, Severus, except to kill Harry Potter. Twice it failed. Ollivander told me under torture of the twin cores. Told me to take another's wand. I did so. Lucius's wand shattered. I have no explanation. I saw the third wand. The Elder Wand, the Wand of Destiny, the Death Stick. I took it from its previous master. He says, and now I think I have the answer. Perhaps you already know it. You're a clever man after all, Severus. You've been a good and faithful servant, and I regret what must happen. What should Snape be doing at that moment? Yeah, apero, or whatever word they say to apparate. My lord, the Elder Wand cannot serve me properly, Severus, because I am not its true master. The Elder Wand belongs to the wizard who killed its last owner. No. So, I regret it. He turns away. Snape is in the cage, and Nagini goes for him. Pulls out his memory, puts it in a vial for Harry, and his last words, look at me. Why?
Lily's eyes.
So the black eyes can meet the green eyes, and so that the last thing he sees when he
He
dies,
thinks of his eyes.
Lily's eyes. Lily's eyes. So, Harry takes the memory, runs up to Dumbledore's office, while Voldemort is talking. He puts on the loudspeaker, says you fought valiantly. Lord Voldemort knows how to value bravery. You've sustained heavy losses. You're all going to die if you keep fighting me, but I am merciful. My forces will retreat. You have 1 hour. Dispose of your dead with dignity. Treat your injured. And Harry Potter, meet me in the Forbidden Forest, and if you don't come in 1 hour, they'll all be slaughtered. Puts it, rather shortly and to the point. This time I shall enter the fray myself. Just a second. Harry Potter, and I shall find you, and I shall punish every last man, woman, and child who has tried to conceal you from me. Notice, Voldemort hasn't been involved in the battle yet. It's just been his forces. Okay? Yes, question.
Okay, quick question. The reason why Snape didn't run away, kind of like what we talked about, I think when we were reading the fifth book about how all the houses are intertwined and how Slytherin and Gryffindor are best friends, and you can't be a Gryffindor without having access to Slytherin and vice versa. Could that be kind of a sense of bravery for him, knowing what's happening but staying behind?
Yeah, it could be. I think it's more of what has Snape been doing his entire life since he heard the prophecy. He's been trying to protect Harry. I mean, from that moment on, his whole purpose in life was, take that back, wasn't trying to protect Harry. He was trying to protect Lily Potter's son. It's not Harry, per se. It's Lily Potter's offspring. That's the only way he thinks of Harry. He doesn't think of Harry as James Potter's son. When he thinks of that, it makes him angry. And he wants to do unnice things to Harry. Okay? And he sometimes does. So, Harry's thinking, what Voldemort said, you've permitted your friends to die. I shall wait for 1 hour. He gets up there, pulls out the pensive. What does he do? If I were filming this, I'd come up with some weird way of doing it. And I'd have Harry sit down in a seat and have it look like an old 16 millimeter film is rolling. And what do we see? First thing,
Lily
and Toonie. How old? Before they're 10, before they're 11. Okay? And so we find out when the nasty boy comes in who tells Lily, you're a witch, but he doesn't mean it in the modern sense of witch. Okay? He means you're a witch. Okay? Petunia's jealous. And we get these memories, that go on and on and on, and that show us this closeness between Lily and Snape. They're so close, what does she call him? Sev. It's a diminutive form. Anytime you use a diminutive form of somebody's name for that person, it implies closeness. Okay? She asks him, in fact, at one point, how are things at your house? Fine. They're not arguing anymore? Oh, they're arguing. Doesn't your dad like magic? He doesn't like anything much. Wow, doesn't that tell us an awful lot about the kind of home Snape grew up in? He doesn't like anything much means what?
He doesn't like me.
He's a malcontent. He doesn't like life. Okay? Severus, yeah, tell me about the Dementors again. Why? Well, if I use magic outside school, okay, memories shift and such. Lily goes off to school, Petunia doesn't. Harry sees his father. I'm skipping a bunch. Okay. Lily asks Snape about the gang he's hanging out with. Mulciber, Avery. She says, what do you see in them? Mulciber, he's creepy. Do you know what he tried to do to Mary McDonald the other day? He says, oh, that was nothing. It was a laugh, that's all. It was dark magic. You think that's funny? What about the stuff Potter and his mates get up to? Yeah, who are his mates, What's Potter got to do with anything? They sneak out at night. There's something weird about that Lupin. Where does he keep going? He's ill. They say he's ill. Every month at the full moon, notice Snape knows what's going on. Okay? Scene shifts again. Snape comes in, gives a warning to Dumbledore. Okay? He and Dumbledore talk. And Dumbledore tells him after Voldemort attacks and kills Lily and James. She and James put their faith in the wrong person, said Dumbledore. Rather like you, Severus. Weren't you hoping that Lord Voldemort would spare her? Her boy survives. Her son lives. He has her eyes, precisely her eyes. You remember the shape and color of Lily Evans's eyes, I am sure. What's Dumbledore doing there? And twisting. Okay. Don't. Is this remorse? I wish I were dead. Big flippin' deal. What good would that do? Dumbledore asks. If you loved Lily Evans, if you truly loved her, then your way forward is clear. What do you want? What do you mean? You know how and why she died. Make sure it was not in vain. Help me protect Lily's son. He does not need protection. The Dark Lord is gone. Dark Lord will return, and Harry Potter will be in terrible danger when he does. Very well, but never, never tell Dumbledore this must be between us. Swear it, I cannot bear, especially Potter's son. I want your word. My word that I shall never reveal. Why does Dumbledore call this the best of you?
He's doing it out of love.
Doing it out of love? Okay. Why else? Why is this the best of Snape? Why isn't Snape, turning spy for Dumbledore and all that? If you insist. Okay. Scene shifts. Memories go by. Another one comes, and Harry sees Marvolo Gaunt's ring on the desk by Dumbledore. It was cracked. The sword of Gryffindor lay beside it. I was a fool, Dumbledore says. Sorely tempted. Tempted by what? He doesn't answer, but it's... That ring carried a curse of extraordinary power. To contain it is all we can hope for. I've trapped the curse in one hand for the time being. How long do you think I have? Cannot tell. Maybe a year. No halting such a spell forever. It will spread. Yes.
Okay. Could Dumbledore be tempted whenever he says, I was tempted, and so says, tempted by what? Was he tempted to see his sister again? Is that why he put the ring on? Because it has the stone in it? His mother?
I think he does say that.
I don't remember if he says it or not. If he does, it'll be in the King's Cross chapter.
Makes sense.
If he knows that the stone on the ring is the resurrection stone, yeah, then the temptation is probably to see his mother and sister again. If it's that. But it could be that he's trying to unite all three of the Deathly Hallows. Now, at the time that he does the thing with the ring, he doesn't have Harry's invisibility cloak. He did have that earlier, however. 16 years earlier. Okay. They start to talk about Draco. Dumbledore says, ultimately, of course, there's only one thing to be done if we're to save him from Lord Voldemort's wrath. Snape, are you intending to let him kill you? Certainly not. You must kill me. Snape, there's a long silence, broken only by an odd clicking noise. Would you like me to do it now? Asked Snape, his voice heavy with irony, or would you like a few moments to compose an epitaph? Oh, not quite yet. I dare say the moment will present itself in due course. Given what has happened tonight, talking about his hand, we can be sure it will happen within a year. Snape, if you don't mind dying, why not let Draco do it? That boy's soul is not yet so damaged, said Dumbledore. I would not have it ripped on my account. Okay, now Snape hears that, and what does he assume Dumbledore means? Yeah, your soul, however, is already so corrupted.
Your soul, however, let's just not get into how broken that is.
In my soul, Dumbledore? Mine? You alone know whether it will harm your soul to help an old man avoid pain and humiliation. I ask this one great favor of you, Severus, because death is coming for me. I should prefer a quick, painless exit to the protracted and messy affair it will be if, for instance, Greyback is involved, or dear Bellatrix, who likes to play with her food before she eats it. Description of, like a cat with a mouse or a spider with a fly. Snape nods. Okay, he agrees. They keep talking. Next page. They're talking about occlumency and Harry and Voldemort. And Snape says, I don't understand. Lord Voldemort's soul, maimed as it is, cannot bear close contact with a soul like Harry's. Like a tongue on frozen steel, like flesh in flame. Souls? We were talking of minds. In the case of Harry and Lord Voldemort, to speak of one is to speak of the other. To speak of the soul is to speak of the mind, Dumbledore says. Notice, Snape doesn't like talking about souls. He's okay with talking about minds. Why? Because mind is rational. Soul, you're getting off into, spiritual kind of stuff. And then Dumbledore just nonchalantly keeps talking. After you have killed me, Severus, you refuse to tell me everything, yet you would expect that small service of me. You take a great deal for granted, Dumbledore. Well, who else kind of thinks that? How much has Dumbledore told Harry? Not this much. You gave me your word. Harry must not know until the last moment, not until it is necessary. Otherwise, how could he have the strength to do what must be done? Notice, Snape doesn't know what must be done. But what must he do? That's between Harry and me. Okay? And finally, Snape puts it all together. So the boy must die? Back up for just a moment. Dumbledore explains to Snape what he must tell Harry. Tell him that on the night Lord Voldemort tried to kill him, when Lily cast her own life between them as a shield, the killing curse rebounded upon Lord Voldemort. Notice how Dumbledore puts that, by the way. Lily cast her life, like she threw her life out as a charm. And it latched, Voldemort's soul, latched itself onto the only living soul left in that collapsing building. Part of Lord Voldemort lives inside Harry. It is that which gives him the power of speech with snakes and a connection with Lord Voldemort's mind that he's never understood. And with that while that fragment of soul, unmissed by Voldemort, remains attached to and protected by Harry, Lord Voldemort cannot die. So notice, Snape doesn't need it spelled out. So he must die. Harry must die so that that piece of Voldemort in Harry also dies. And Voldemort himself must do it, Severus. That is essential. I thought we were keeping him alive. For her. For Lily. We've protected him because it's been essential to teach him, to raise him, to let him try his strength. Okay? If I know him, he will have arranged matters so that when he does set out to meet his death, it will truly mean the end of Voldemort. You've kept him alive so that he can die at the right moment? Don't be shocked, Severus. How many men and women have you watched die? It's an important little question. Lately, only those whom I could not save. Who might he mean? He didn't watch Peter Pettigrew die. He wasn't in the room. Charity Burbage,
Muggles.
floating up above the dinner table at Malfoy Manor. Severus, please, she calls out to him. He can't do anything. He'll blow his cover.
Was he into? He wasn't.
Lately, only those whom I could not save. You have used me, meaning I've spied for you, lied for you, put myself in mortal danger for you. Everything was supposed to be to keep Lily Potter's son safe. Now you tell me you've been raising him like a pig for slaughter. But this is touching, Severus. Have you grown to care for the boy after all? Notice he doesn't address what Snape has just said. Is Snape wrong there? No, not at all. Harry has been raised for this one purpose. Snape, for him, expecto patronum. And we see the silver doe. Dumbledore, after all this time, always. Okay? The forest again. Finally, the truth. Yes?
Sorry, I just wanna, I know that was really intense part of you, kind of recuperating over it, but I kinda wanna point out, whenever, after Voldemort is kind of vanquished, per se, the first time, and Dumbledore's talking to Snape, and Snape says, I cannot bear especially Potter's son. That's whenever Harry's a baby, but then later on, before, after all this time, always, he says, Lily Potter's son. It's like he's accepted that he's both.
He is Potter's son, yeah.
Yeah, but he's also Lily.
He's Lily Potter's, because that's the name he
Exactly.
now knows her by. Okay. And I still think that there's a connection between Mark Evans being beat up by Dudley and Lily Evans. Okay. Finally, the truth. Notice where we were at the beginning of the novel. Choose what to believe. Didn't they know he needed the truth? He needed to know. Well, now he knows. Now he doesn't have to believe anything. Okay? Lying with his face pressed into the dusty carpet of the office where he'd once thought he was learning the secrets of victory, Harry understood at last that he was not supposed to survive. His job was to walk calmly into death's welcoming arms. Along the way, he was to dispose of Voldemort's remaining links to life, so that when at last he flung himself across Voldemort's path and did not raise a wand to defend himself, the end would be clean, and the job that ought to have been done in Godric's Hollow would be finished. Neither would live, neither could survive. What does Harry think is going to happen?
They're both gonna die.
Mutual assured destruction. Exactly. They're both going to die. He's not all aware that part of him's going to die and part of Voldemort's going to die, and they're both going to be dead, and then they're both going to wake up again. All of that's completely out of his mind. Has never entered it.
So did Gandalf at that point think that Harry Potter would live afterwards?
Dumbledore. Yeah, I think so. And here's why. As we're going to find out when we get to that chapter, King's Cross. The prophecy says, neither can live while the other survives. So here's Harry Potter. Here's Lord Voldemort. Notice there's a little bit of Lord Voldemort in Harry Potter. But there's also a little bit of Harry Potter in Lord Voldemort. So what happens? Voldemort attacks Harry. What does he do? He takes this part and pulls it out. Okay? He uses Avada Kedavra, so it kills Harry. Harry doesn't do anything, but when Voldemort attacks Harry, it rebounds again. So that this part of Harry is now removed from Voldemort. Okay? He used Harry's blood, which is protected because of Lily's sacrifice for Harry. So what happens when he actually curses Harry when Harry goes into the Forbidden Forest? They both go down. We're going to see in that moment. Okay? I think what the neither can live while the other survives, what that really means is neither can live. This one can't live, this one can't live if either of them survives. It means they both have to die. Okay? And he starts his walk. And he's thinking as he walks, this cold-blooded walk to his own destruction would require a different kind of bravery. Why had he never appreciated, as he sits up, he thinks, why had he never appreciated what a miracle he was, brain and nerve and bounding heart? Go back to the Christmas morning, sitting on that hillside, looking over that majestic view, and we're told simply to be alive, to watch the sun rise over the sparkling snowy hillside, ought to have been the greatest treasure on earth. yet he could not appreciate it. Simply to be alive to watch that sunrise should have been the greatest treasure on earth. Why? Because life is the greatest treasure on earth. Just mere existence. Okay? It would all be gone. Or, actually, he starts to think, well, actually, it won't, but I'll be gone. Others will go on living, just I won't. And here he thinks, he keeps thinking, and Dumbledore knew I wouldn't chicken out, I wouldn't duck out. Like rain on a cold window, these thoughts pattered against the hard surface of the incontrovertible truth, which was that he must die. I must die. It must end. And in his mind, Ron and Hermione are a long way off. Okay? He pulls on the invisibility cloak. He makes his way down the stairs. He runs into Neville. He gives Neville a little bit of advice. You see that snake Voldemort always has with him? Kill it if you get a chance. Okay? Neville's like, you're not handing yourself over. No, I'm not going to do that. He puts the cloak back on. He keeps walking. He sees Ginny consoling a student, a girl. And the girl says, I want to go home. I don't want to fight anymore. Okay? She's not a coward. That's human nature to say, I don't want to fight anymore. I'm tired. I've had enough. Especially given this context. After all, what seemingly is lying all over the place?
Dead bodies.
Yeah. Ginny, I know, and her voice breaks. It's going to be all right. Really? Is it? Clock's ticking. Voldemort's going to enter the fray. We don't have a proper mindset, a proper way to understand or think of Voldemort. Because we've never had a real Voldemort. Hitler doesn't come close. Stalin doesn't come close. Mao doesn't come close. You'd have to take all those, roll them into one, and
Throw a nuclear bomb in for good measure?
give him magical properties. So, for lack of a better example, Satan would be a good Voldemort. Okay? You have to accept for a moment the possibility that Satan really exists. If you accept for the moment that possibility, then maybe the understanding blossoms in your mind of what they're facing.
Now that I thought about that, he probably would have used them from the battlefield right there and just let them fight their own.
Harry's thinking, he wanted to be stopped. He wants to be dragged back, to be sent back home. Number 4 Privet Drive? He's never been home. But he was home. Hogwarts was the first and best home he had known. This line always gets me. He and Voldemort and Snape. What have we seen of Snape's background?
Broken home. Abusive home.
How much different is it than Harry's? Not much. How much different is it than Voldemort's? Notice none of the 3 of them had an optimal upbringing. None of the 3 of them experienced a great deal of love.
And something like a home, if you squint and look at it sideways,
Well, yeah.
and recently suffered head trauma.
For a moment I thought you said recently severed head trauma. And I was thinking, yeah, probably some of that too.
I find it really interesting in this line because it kind of made me realize that in those 3 people, she acknowledges almost every different type of family setting you can have. There's the boy in an orphanage, there's a boy in foster care, essentially, with Harry, and then the boy in a 2-parent, home, and they're all facing the same demons. And I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, notice what's not included. The totally magical home.
Yeah.
Because Snape's family is what? Half magical, half not magical. And notice there is nothing but discord there. Okay?
I just think it's interesting because in a real world sense, she kind of is telling you that no matter what type of family situation you're in, it's not always perfect. And it can be imperfect, whether you have both parents or no parents or some parents or anything.
And it can be imperfect in what can come out of that,
3 different outcomes.
Good or evil.
good or evil.
So it's a kind of one for one.
I mean, as Dumbledore tells Harry, with everything you've been through, you've never been tempted by the dark side. It doesn't take much to push old Tommy Riddle over to the dark side. Snape,
He found yours.
he went over lock, stock, and barrel. I mean, completely. And yet did what? As Hermione says about Dumbledore, he changed, Harry. He changed. That's one of the most important things about these novels, is that Rowling is trying to, I think, teach her readers, people can change. They might look evil now, but there is possibility for change. You have a question?
I was gonna also about the home, 3 of them. 2 of Harry has no parents remaining. Voldemort still had 1, but abandoned by him. Tom.
No, they're dead.
Tom. Well, he killed.
Well, yeah,
Tom,
he killed
Tom. Abandoned them.
Right.
Yeah. But in a psychological sense, it's almost worse that Snape has both his parents and still is neglected by them, rather than just having the.
Well, we don't know that he's neglected by his mother.
Mhm.
We know it's his father that's abusive. And notwithstanding what modern psychology and modern sociology and anthropologists and everything say, I'm going to be completely politically incorrect here, boys need fathers. Period. Period. You can be the greatest single mom in the world, and I've got a good friend who has 5 sons, and she's a single mom, and she does her damnedest. Now, some of them are older and married and stuff by now, okay? But boys need that role model. Why? Again, being totally politically incorrect here, men and women are different. Period. There are biological differences, there are DNA differences, there are emotional differences, there are psychological differences, there are spiritual differences between men and women. And when we try to blur those differences, all kinds of chaos happens. Okay? So he keeps walking. Notice what he doesn't do. He sees Ginny. Ginny's on her knees consoling that girl. Harry's walking to his death. He doesn't say goodbye. He's going to leave Ginny alone. Okay? He gets to the edge of the forest. There's Dementors. He doesn't have strength left for Patronus. It was not, after all, so easy to die. You know, he's thinking kind of back in book 6. Yeah, you stride into the arena, chest thrust out like, I'm going to meet death face to face. Now, he's walking a little more slowly. Every second he breathed, notice, every second he breathed, the smell of the grass, the cool air on his face was so precious. Why? Because those seconds are soon going to run out. Notice, he is now aware of what?
Breathing.
He's aware of everything going on around him. Why? Because he's soon going to be unaware. He has achieved what Tolkien says in that fairy story essay that I linked to but didn't require you to read. He has achieved real recovery. Now he finally sees. He understands how important life is. To think that people had years and years timed away, so much time it dragged, and he was clinging to each second. I mean, you could write a dissertation, literally, on that sentence. That people have years and years time to waste. It's one of the themes that motivates so much of Shakespeare in his sonnets, is this emphasis on time. And how we waste time and how time wastes us. He calls time sluggish because time sleeps with everything. Time doesn't make any distinction between high and powerful, low and weak. At the same time, he thought he would not be able to go on, but knew that he must. The long game was ended.
Quidditch.
He is, after all, what?
Seeker. And he has a snitch.
And he pulls the snitch out. I guess he thinks this is it. This is the end. I open at the close. And he starts to wonder. He puts his mouth to it and says, I'm about to die. And it breaks open. And there, he lowered his shaking hand, raised Draco's wand beneath the cloak, and murmured, Lumos, the black stone with its jagged crack running down the center, sat in the two halves of the snitch. The resurrection stone had cracked down the vertical line representing the elder wand. Notice the stone has this on it. It has the Deathly Hallows symbol on it. And again, Harry understood, without having to think. It did not matter about bringing them back. He was going to join them. And he turns the stone over 3 times in his hand. They were neither ghost nor truly flesh, he could see that. They resembled most closely the riddle that had escaped from the diary so long ago. And he had been memory made nearly solid. James was the same height as Harry, wearing the clothes in which he had died. His hair was untidy and ruffled, his glasses a little lopsided. Sirius, notice, tall and handsome. He's not the thin, gaunt person that Harry had known. Younger by far than Harry had seen him in life. Why?
His pristine self.
Why is James the way he is? Why is Sirius the way he is? Why is Lupin the way he is? Notice, Lupin doesn't look like a werewolf. He doesn't look haggard anymore.
They're in their purest form.
Okay, think of it in another way.
It's kind of the way, when you go to heaven, you're perfect. Everyone's
They've all
perfect.
been resurrected.
Sure.
They've been resurrected. That is, they've been perfected. Okay? They're made whole. How do we know? Wait till we get King's Cross. And Harry wakes up.
Each of them's smiling.
They're all smiling. Lupin, younger too, much less shabby, hair thicker, darker. Lily's smile was widest of all. She pushed her long hair back as she drew close to him, and her green eyes searched his face. You've been so brave. What is that verb tense? You've been. You have been. Tell us.
We've seen all of it.
Have been is in the past, and it's continuing to the present. They're aware of what Harry's been doing for the last couple hours. He could not speak. James, you are nearly there, very close. We are so proud of you. Nearly there where?
Yeah.
Not only are they aware of what Harry's been doing in the past, they know where he's going. Does it hurt? Dying? Not at all, says Sirius. Quicker and easier than falling asleep. That's a line from one of John Donne's Holy Sonnets. Holy Sonnet, Death Be Not Proud. I did my dissertation on Holy Sonnets. I have that memorized. And he will want it to be quick. He wants it over, said Lupin. Echoes? Hell no. These are souls. Okay? These are resurrected souls. The bodies haven't been resurrected yet. They're still moldering under the ground. And Harry says, when Lupin says he wants it over, I didn't want you to die. Notice, that's directed at Lupin. It's not directed at his parents and Sirius. What does he mean?
You just had a kid of your own.
Yeah, but what else?
I'm sorry.
Why?
Because they got in a fight prior over Lupin leaving.
He called him a coward. I didn't want you to die. What did he want? I wanted you to go back to Tom's, to be with your wife and your child, and to raise that child. Lupin, Harry, right after you'd had your son, Remus, I'm sorry. I'm sorry too, says Lupin. Where are we at the end of the book? We're exactly where we were at the beginning of the first book. A little orphan boy. This one's not named Harry Potter, this one's named Teddy Lupin. I'm so sorry. Sorry I will never know him. But he will know why I died, and I hope he will understand. That's, when this came out, and after I'd gone to that, I and my kids, my older kids, had gone to that podcast party at Waterstones, and we saw that couple. I mean, fantastic looking couple. Beautiful woman, handsome guy, dressed as Lupin and Tonks. And the next day, get to this and you think, oh man, that was probably such a downer for them, because you had no idea that they were both going to die. I was trying to make a world in which he could live a happier life. Notice, like Frodo, does Frodo make a world in which Sam can live a happier life? Yes, he does. Is it a world for Frodo to inhabit? No, it is not. Why? Because sometimes people give up their lives so that other people can have their lives. Harry, you'll stay with me? What is that?
Question?
Assurance?
He's scared.
He's scared. Okay, what is that again? That's the voice of a little child with his parents. It's dark outside. They're scared. Will you stay with me? Yes. They won't be able to see you? We are part of you, said Sirius, invisible to anyone else. Oh, so this is all just happening in Harry's head. Doesn't mean it can't be real. And it's not really happening in Harry's head. Harry looks at his mother. Stay close to me. He's never talked to her that he can remember. Well, take that back. No, he's never talked to her. He was a baby when she died. He wasn't talking yet. Stay close to me, to his mother. He walks off. He goes into the Forbidden Forest. Voldemort thinks he was mistaken, and Harry says, you weren't. Shows up. Hagrid yells, no. Voldemort hits him with the Avada Kedavra. King's Cross. He lay face down, listening to the silence. Perfectly alone, nobody was watching. Nobody else was there. He was not perfectly sure that he was there himself. A long time later, or maybe no time at all. Why?
Time is irrelevant. Time doesn't exist in
He's outside time. Okay? It came to him, he must exist, must be more than disembodied thought, because he was lying, definitely lying, on some surface. Therefore, he had a sense of touch, and the thing against which he lay existed too. So, Harry's starting to apply some empirical reason. I feel that I'm lying, so I have a body, it can be oriented, and I'm on something, so there's something else too. And then he's suddenly aware, I'm naked. Convinced as he was of his total solitude, this did not concern him, but it did intrigue him slightly. He wondered whether, as he could feel, he would be able to see. And he opens his eyes for the first time. And he discovers that he has eyes. He lay in a bright mist. Not like a mist he'd ever experienced before. His surroundings were not hidden by cloudy vapor. Rather, the cloudy vapor had not formed itself into surroundings. Now, think about what that means. What has he not done yet to the cloudy vapor?
cleared it. It just focused it.
Yeah. He's not given it shape. Okay? It's his mind that gives it shape. It's our minds that tell us what is real. Because if we had no understanding, no category, no idea for would this exist? That'll, drop some acid, that'll blow your mind for a while. Think about it. If we have no idea for it at all,
Summer goals.
what does it become? Summer goals. I'll have to edit that part out of the YouTube video. I'll be getting people in.
In June, he's just gonna be like against the wall.
I'll get people in Oregon and California say, "Hey man, come teach in my school." I'm from California, so. The floor in which he lay seemed to be white, neither warm nor cold, but simply there. He sits up, his body appeared unscathed. Notice he's still naked. And he reaches up, touches his face, and notices he's not wearing any glasses. And yet he can see perfectly. What else does he notice?
No score.
No scar. Why not?
He's been resurrected.
The fact that he can see means his bodily form, whatever it is now perfect. Okay? The fact that he has no scar means everything that was in the past was in the past. And he hears a noise. Through the unformed nothingness that surrounded him, the small, soft thumpings of something that flapped, flailed, and struggled. It was a pitiful noise that also slightly indecent. Indecent doesn't mean dirty. It just means it didn't belong in this location. He had the uncomfortable feeling that he was eavesdropping on something furtive, shameful, and he wishes he were clothed. And he's clothed. Puts them on, soft, clean, warm. He stood up, looking around, wondering, am I in some great room of requirement? The longer he looked, the more there was to see. Great domed glass roof. Perhaps it's a palace. King's Cross has one of these. Okay. He hears that noise again. And he turns and looks. And his surroundings seem to invent themselves before his eyes. Okay? What does he do? He looks with the eyes that he remembers having seen things in the past. And so, when he looks, he sees what he remembers having seen in the past. Like a great hall, except for the domed glass ceiling. He's the only person there except for... And he recoils. He had spotted the thing that was making the noises. It had the form of a small, naked child. Curled on the ground, its skin raw and rough, flayed looking, and it lay shuddering under a seat where it had been left. Unwanted, stuffed out of sight, struggling for breath. What is it?
His fragmented soul.
It's the part of Voldemort's soul that was where? The one that was in Harry. He was afraid of it. Small and fragile and wounded though it was, he did not want to approach it. Nevertheless, he drew slowly nearer. He doesn't want to touch it, but he draws closer to it. Why?
Curious.
Curiosity?
He wants to help.
He wants to help. He wants to help. Soon he stood near enough to touch it, yet he could not bring himself to do it. He felt like a coward. Notice, he felt like a coward. Every coward knows, I'm a coward. Why? Because a coward knows what he ought to do and chooses not to do it. He ought to comfort it, but it repulsed him. You cannot help. He keeps looking over here. Dumbledore will tell him, I think, 2 more times, you cannot help. That bit, Harry can't do anything for. Notice, by the way, what's it described as again? A young child. He spun round. Dumbledore is walking towards him, sprightly and upright, wearing sweeping robes of midnight blue. Harry, you wonderful boy, you brave, brave man. Let's walk. Harry, you're dead. Yes. Then I'm dead too. On the whole, dear boy, I think not. What does he mean, on the whole? Is he mostly dead? He just needs a pill for Miracle Max? Not. Harry. Star's not there. But I should have died. I didn't defend myself. I meant to let him kill me. And that will have made all the difference. Another echo, I think, from Robert Frost's The Road Less Traveled. What does Harry mean when he says, I meant to let him kill me?
Not sure if he did or not.
No.
It was my intention to die. What do you mean I'm not?
Yes. It was that. It was my intention to die. I intended to be the sacrifice. Okay? That's why Dumbledore says, and that will have made all the difference. It was the intention. It wasn't the carrying out of the act that was important. Harry, I let him kill me. Didn't I? You did. Okay, so, go back up a minute. I let him kill me means, therefore, that I am killed, dead. Dumbledore, you did. Go on. So the part of the soul that was in me, come on, Harry, you can do it. Has it gone? Oh, yes. Yes, he destroyed it. Your soul is whole and completely your own, Harry. But then, and Harry looks over at the thing under the chair. What is that? Something that is beyond either of our help. But if Voldemort used the killing curse, how can I be alive? Come on, Harry. You know, think. Even dead, he's still teaching them. Okay? And Harry thinks of that thing again. He took my blood. Precisely. He took your blood, rebuilt his living body with it. Your blood in his veins, Harry. Lily's protection inside both of you. He tethered you to life while he lives. Voldemort isn't dead, is he? So, because he has Harry's blood in him, Harry can't be completely, fully dead. Unless he chooses to go on. Okay, he's going to have that choice. You can go on and you can come back. Notice that blood serves as a link back to Earth. Or
kind of be like a Horcrux?
Life, if you want. Yeah, it's kind of like almost a reverse Horcrux, if you want. It's not something Harry did. It's something that was forced from him. Harry, I live while he lives, but I thought it was the other way around. I thought we both had to die. Or is it the same thing? Are you sure we can't do anything? Because that thing is still whimpering and whining. There is no help possible. Harry, explain. You were the seventh Horcrux, Harry, the Horcrux he never meant to make. He had rendered his soul so unstable, it broke apart when he committed those acts of unspeakable evil, the murder of your parents. What escaped from that room was even less than he knew. He left more than his body behind. He left part of himself latched to you, the would-be victim who had survived. Okay? And his knowledge remained woefully complete. That which Voldemort does not value, he takes no trouble to comprehend. That is, if it's not dark magic that's going to give him ultimate mastery and supremacy over the world, he doesn't care about it. He knows of house elves and children's tales of love, loyalty, and innocence. Voldemort knows and understands nothing. They all have a power beyond his own, a power beyond the reach of any magic. Is a truth he has never grasped. Okay? So, Tales of Beedle the Bard. Dumbledore saying, there is a truth in these stories. Hermione thinks they're just morality tales designed to explain things that humans fear. He took your blood believing it would strengthen him. He took into his body a tiny part of the enchantment your mother laid upon you when she died for you. Okay? So, his body keeps her sacrifice alive. And while that enchantment survives, so do you. and so does Voldemort's one last hope for himself. What does he mean, Voldemort's one last hope for himself?
Redemption.
Redemption. Harry, and you knew this? You guessed? Dumbledore, I guessed. Okay? So, they continue talking for a while, which we're not going to read all of it. And Harry says, he killed me with your wand. He failed to kill you with my wand. I think we can both agree that you're not dead. Though I do not minimize your sufferings, which I'm sure were severe. Harry, where are we exactly? Well, I was going to ask you that. Where would you say that we are? Okay. Harry, it looks like King's Cross. Except cleaner, empty, no trains. Dumbledore, really? King's Cross? Harry, where do you think we are? I have no idea, my boy. This is, as they say, your party. Why? Because it's happening in Harry's head. All a hallucination? Harry, the Deathly Hallows. Dumbledore, yes. Okay. They're real. Dumbledore, real and dangerous and a lure for fools. And I was such a fool. But you know, don't you? You know, Harry, what do I know? Master of Death, Harry, Master of Death. Was I better ultimately than Voldemort? Of course you were. You never killed if you could avoid it. He says, yeah, but I too sought a way to conquer death. To conquer death. The Master of Death doesn't seek to conquer it. The Master of Death says, hello, baby, and welcomes death with open arms. And Harry, Hallows, not Horcruxes. Hallows, not Horcruxes. Okay? So they keep talking. They talk about the Peverils. They talk about the invisibility cloak got handed down from Ignotus Peveril all the way down to Harry. Dumbledore talks about his family, his parents, his sister. What happened the night his sister died. And he says, I had learned on page 719 or so, I had learned that I was not to be trusted with power. There's a reason why he's never been the Minister of Magic. Yes.
So the invisibility cloak gets passed down from the Peverils in a direct line to Harry Potter. But Marvolo Gaunt said that he was a descendant of the Peverils. Doesn't that mean that Potter and Voldemort are
Related? Sure.
pretty close cousins?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that they're pretty
Sort
close
of.
cousins, but I mean, they may be,
They're direct line descendants of the same family.
yeah. Yep. So, Harry says, but you've been much, much better than Fudge or Scrimgeour. Dumbledore, would I? I'd proven as a very young man, power was my weakness, my temptation. It's a curious thing, Harry. Hard to read this during elections. It is a curious thing, Harry, but perhaps those who are best suited to power are those who have never sought it. Those who, like you, have leadership thrust upon them and take up the mantle because they must, and find to their own surprise that they wear it well. Okay? Skipping a page or so, about page 720. Dumbledore says, he found out about the resurrection stone. Harry says that, Dumbledore nods, and he says, I was such a fool, Harry. After all those years, I had learned nothing. I was unworthy to unite the Deathly Hallows. I proved it time and again, and here was final proof. That is, when he tried to crack open the stone. I was fit to own the Elder Wand, and not to boast of it, and not to kill with it. I was permitted to tame and to use it because I took it not for gain, but to save others from it. But the cloak I took out of vain curiosity. That is when he borrowed it from James. And so it could never have worked for me as it works for you, its true owner. The stone I would have used in an attempt to drag back those who are at peace, rather than to enable my self-sacrifice, as you did. Notice, Harry didn't bring back his parents to fulfill some desire he had. He brought back his parents and Remus and Lupin to what? To help push him on. To help spur him to do the deed he had to do. Yes?
Maybe I'm just going out on a limb, but I see a similarity between the Elder Wand and the Philosopher's Stone. And in the sense that, Dumbledore said that he was fit to own the Elder Wand, but not use it to kill for the purpose it was initially intended to do. And that's kind of how the person gets the Philosopher's Stone to have it, but not use it for its purpose.
Well, Dumbledore, that's how Dumbledore puts it in the mirror.
Yeah.
That's the test that he puts over it. So that only one who wants to take the stone and protect it from being used will be able to take the stone out of the mirror. That's not the purpose of the stone at all.
Okay.
So he says, you are the worthy possessor of the Hallows. Harry, why'd you make it so difficult? You could have made it a lot easier. He says, I'm afraid I counted on Miss Granger to slow you up, Harry. I was afraid your hot head might dominate your good heart. I was scared that if presented outright with the facts about these tempting objects, you might seize the Hallows as I did at the wrong time for the wrong reasons. If you laid hands on them, I wanted you to possess them safely. You are the true master of death, because the true master does not seek to run away from death. He accepts he must die, and understands there are far, far worse things in the living world than dying. And I said this to my morning class, because I've never put this on an exam, and I ought to sometime. Discuss the far, far worse things in the living world than dying. What are they?
Seeing others die.
Seeing others die? Okay. It's still dying.
Your depression, anxiety, all of your mental disorders,
Okay.
Suffering.
despair.
Despair.
Never feeling love.
Constant pain.
Constant pain. Pain can be good, though.
Can be.
It's not necessarily, it doesn't mean, go around with a knife. Not that kind of pain. Harry, it's about second to last page. If you planned your death with Snape, you meant him to end up with the Elder Wand, didn't you? I admit that was my intention. Did not work as I intended, did it? No, says Harry, that bit didn't work out. That thing makes noise again. I've got to go back, haven't I? It's up to you. I've got a choice. Oh, yes. We are King's Cross, you say? Well, if we are in King's Cross, then I think a train will come in and you can go off. You can, let's say, board a train. Where would it take me? On. Voldemort's got the Elder Wand. Yep. But you want me to go back. I think if you choose to return, there's a chance he may be finished for good. Can't promise it, but maybe. Harry looks at the thing under the chair again. Do not pity the dead, Harry. Pity the living. And above all, those who live without love. What's he telling Harry to do?
Show pity on the
Show pity on Voldemort. Give him a chance. Okay? By returning, you may ensure that fewer souls are maimed. Fewer families are torn apart. How many families have been torn apart from the first novel to this one?
So,
If that seems to you a worthy goal, then we say goodbye for the present. Okay? If you ever do go about to read Tolkien's essay on fairy stories, don't just read the one that's online. I highly recommend getting a little book called The Tolkien Reader, which has the essay on fairy stories with a fairy story that Tolkien wrote to how do I want to put this? To demonstrate what he's talking about in the essay on fairy stories. And the story that he wrote to demonstrate it is called Leaf by ENGL. And it's a fantastic little story. And it has a scene where a guy gets on a train and he goes on. I am convinced that J.K. Rowling knows this little story. Okay? It's also, I think, by the way, in the writer, I can never remember the author's name. In the writer's mind, the guy who wrote What Dreams May Come, novel, and then was made into a film with Cuba Gooding Jr. and Robin Williams. Really, really good movie. Okay?
Really depressing movie.
Yeah, it's depressing. Depressing. Okay? But I think that person knew Leaf by ENGL. Yeah.
What was the book itself?
The Tolkien Reader.
Tolkien Reader.
Mm-hmm. So Harry goes back. And Voldemort asks, is he dead? Harry notices Voldemort had collapsed. Death Eaters are around him, on the ground. You, he says, tell me whether he is dead. And hands softer than he had been expecting touched Harry's face, pulled back an eyelid, crept beneath his shirt, reaches up underneath, down to his chest, and felt his heart. He could hear the woman's fast breathing. Her long hair tickled his face. He knew that she could feel the steady pounding of life against his ribs. Is Draco alive? Is he in the castle? Yes. And her hand contracts on his chest. And what does she do? She pierces him with her nails. Okay? It's Narcissa Malfoy. And she says, he is dead. Now, what does Voldemort always say about liars?
I know.
Don't lie to Lord Voldemort. I always know when someone's lying to me, except for, of course, when they are, and he doesn't know, like Snape, here Narcissa Malfoy. So, they go back up to the castle. Harry, surprise, I'm not dead. And page 738. Harry starts to talk with Voldemort. Okay, Nagini's been killed. And he says, you won't be killing anyone else tonight. You won't be able to kill any of them ever again. Don't you get it? I was ready to stop you hurting these people. But you did not. That is, you didn't stop me. I'm still alive. I'm still... Harry, I meant to, and that's what did it. What does he mean? I've done what my mother did. They're protected from you. Haven't you noticed how none of the spells you put on them are binding? When Harry walked into the forest and got Avada Kedavra by Dumbledore, it's like, a shockwave went out from the forest. Where?
Everywhere.
Everywhere. Is it just the wizarding world Harry's protected? No. It's all people. You can't torture them. You can't touch them. You don't learn from your mistakes, Riddle. Do you? You dare? You called me by my name? And he says, yes, I dare. I know things you don't know, Tom Riddle. I know lots of things that you don't. Want to hear some before you make another big mistake? And notice what Voldemort does. Love again. Notice he knows where Harry's going. Dumbledore's favorite solution. Love which did not prevent me stamping out your mudblood mother like a cockroach, Potter. Nobody seems to love you enough to run forward this time. Take my curse. What's going to stop you dying now when I strike? One thing. Well, if it's not love that's going to save you, you must believe you have magic that I do not, or else a weapon more powerful than mine. Harry, I believe both. I believe I have magic you don't understand, and I have a weapon more powerful than the one you have. No, you can't think that. Voldemort says. Dumbledore was weak, too weak to dare, too weak to take what might have been his, what will be mine. No, he was cleverer than you. Okay? He says, I brought about the death of Albus Dumbledore. No, you didn't. Dumbledore made that up with Snape. Severus Snape wasn't yours. Snape was Dumbledore's. Dumbledore's from the moment you started hunting down my mother, and you never realized it. You never saw Snape cast a Patronus, did you? It was a doe, the same as my mother's, because he loved her for nearly all of his life, from the time when they were children. Notice what Harry says. He loved her. You should have realized he asked you to spare her life, didn't he? He said, well, he desired her. Notice what Voldemort thinks. It was sex. That's what it was. But when she had gone, he agreed there were other women and of purer blood, blah, blah, blah. Okay? So, Voldemort says, I killed Severus Snape 3 hours ago, and the Elder Wand, the Destic, the Wand of Destiny, is truly mine. Dumbledore's last plan went wrong. Why? Because Snape killed Dumbledore. Dumbledore was the owner of the Destic, the Wand of Destiny, the Elder Wand. So, Snape became the master of the Elder Wand. So I killed Snape, and now I'm the master. Harry. Yeah, it did. You're right. But before you try to kill me, I'd advise you to think about what you've done. Think and try for some remorse. Riddle. This is Harry showing pity. What? What is this? Of all the things that Harry had said to him beyond any revelation or taunt, nothing had shocked Voldemort like this. Why? Why does this shock him?
He's never been offered.
He doesn't understand.
It's like Dumbledore with Malfoy. Whenever they were together, Dumbledore was acting like he was the one with the cards in his hand.
Yep.
And here Voldemort, Harry's doing the same thing with Voldemort.
What's it an expression of? Love. Voldemort has never, he says, I've never found, what you talk about love. And Dumbledore says, well, maybe you need to search in other places. Here, Harry offers this to him. What is this? Notice, he doesn't understand what it is. It's your one last chance, said Harry. It's all you've got. I've seen what you'll be otherwise. You'll be incomplete. Be a man. What does Voldemort think he is? Thinks he is. He's not a man. He's beyond humanity. He's risen above. Right? Try. Try for some remorse. You dare? Yes, I dare. Because Dumbledore's last plan hasn't backfired. It's backfired on you. He said, that wand still isn't working right, is it? Why? Because you murdered the wrong person. Snape was never the true master. He killed. You're not listening. That's been Voldemort's main problem. He's never listened. Dumbledore's death was planned, he says, between them. He intended to die and defeated the wand's last true master. If all had gone as planned, the wand's power would have died with him, because it had never been won from him. But then Potter, Dumbledore as good as gave me the wand. I stole the wand from his dead fingers. Harry, you don't get it. Riddle, do you? Possessing the wand isn't enough. And he goes back to when he first shows up at Ollivander's. The wand chooses the wizard. The wand, like the ring, seems to be sentient. The Elder Wand recognized a new master before Dumbledore died. Someone who had never even laid a hand on it. Draco Malfoy. And Draco was somewhere in the hall. And he hears his name and his ears probably go, rip. And Voldemort says, well, even if you're right, it makes no difference to you. You no longer have the Phoenix Wand. We'll duel on skill alone. And after I've killed you, I'll find Draco. And Draco's probably, I'm gonna, Harry twitches the wand. Draco's wand. And says, you're too late. You've missed your chance. I got there first. I overpowered Draco weeks ago. I took this wand from him. Meaning, I overpowered him weeks ago. After he killed Dumbledore, I defeated him. I may not have the wand of destiny in my hands, but I'm pretty sure it's going to recognize me as Papa. So it all comes down to this. Does the wand in your hand know its last master was disarmed? Is it listening? Because if it does, I am the true master of the Elder Wand. And notice, as soon as he says that, what does Rowling give us?
The red glow burst.
A red glow burst suddenly across the enchanted sky above them as an edge of dazzling sun appeared over the sill of the nearest window. The light hit both of their faces at the same time, so that Voldemort's was suddenly a flaming blur. Harry heard the high voice shriek as he too yelled his best hope to the heavens. Calling for help? Avada Kedavra, Expelliarmus. The sun has risen, red gold. It's the colors of Gryffindor. Okay? And Tom Riddle hit the floor with a mundane finality, like dropping a sack of potatoes. His body feeble and shrunken, the white hands empty, the snake-like face vacant and unknowing. Voldemort was dead, killed by his own rebounding curse, and Harry stood with two wands in his hand. Sun rises up fully, and what do the people do? What does everybody in the hall do? You get this long paragraph. Well, not real long. The sun rose steadily over Hogwarts, and the great hall blazed with life and light. Harry was an indispensable part of the mingled outpourings of jubilation and mourning, of grief and celebration. Notice the paradox. Jubilation, mourning. Grief, celebration. They wanted him there with him, their leader and symbol, their savior and their guide. That he had not slept, that he craved the company of only a few of them, seemed to occur to no one. He must speak to the bereaved, clasp their hands, witness their tears, receive their thanks, hear the news. This is, if you're familiar with the Hunger Games, this is like Katniss when she goes in to the hospital. In the, third book, second book? And she goes in and people are like, is it really you? Are you going to fight with us? It's what turns her, really, into the Mockingjay. It's that moment that she realizes she's more than just Katniss Everdeen. Notice, here, the way Rowling describes it, this is where Harry becomes, really, the chosen one. What's he doing? Walking around to people. He's identifying with them, and they're identifying with him. Hear the news now creeping in from every quarter as the morning drew on that the imperious up and down the country had come back to themselves. Death Eaters were fleeing or being captured. The innocent of Azkaban were being released. And that Kingsley Shacklebolt had been named temporary minister of magic. I've always wondered, who names him that? It's, it's passive.
Who decides that?
Yeah, it's not like there's an election or anything.
Maybe the Wizengamot?
Most of the Wizengamot's dead.
Or turned. Right? We'll stop there unless you want to say anything about the epilogue. Only two things I find interesting about the epilogue are one, Harry's son's name, Albus Severus, okay, and two, when Draco tips his hat. Why is that significant? Draco tips his hat.
It indicates a change of heart and relation.
Do we ever hear about that with Lucius? No. What about Narcissa? Does she have a change of heart? She lets him live.
We don't ever actually see that Narcissa is necessarily evil.
It's true.
She's married to Lucius
Yes.
and a passive character up until the very end.
She is what her name describes. Self-loving. But the self, I don't think, is Narcissa. It's Malfoy. she's gonna protect her own, okay? Maybe Eileen Prince should have done a little bit of that. Okay? Maybe Maripay should have done a little bit of that. Okay, emailed the exam already to you. I'm planning, not promising, having your papers